Hey everybody, so if you haven't figured out by now from my Instagram, I got myself a MakerBot Thing-O-Matic from Tested. I'll explain how I got it and what my plans are for it in just a minute. So if you guys haven't figured out by now, I got myself a new 3D printer and I wasn't even planning on it happening. Pretty much Tested.com was having a moving out sale from their current workspace as they're moving to a new one. And I figured, hey, you know, I live in the city, they're not that far away, might as well just hop the bus and the subway, go and visit and see if there's anything cool. So as I was walking around, I found myself some sanding sticks. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Poking around some more, and then I noticed the MakerBot Thing-O-Matic, and I'm like, oh, that looks cool. So I asked Sean, who's one of the people who works at Tested, I asked him, hey, how much is the Thing-O-Matic? And he goes, let me double check. So goes over and asks Norm from Tested. Comes on back and goes, oh, that's 50 bucks. Needs a little bit of work, but 50 bucks. And I'm like, 50 bucks? Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it. He's like, oh, cool, thanks. Glad it's going to a good home. I'm like, hey, glad I could have it. So that is how I got my hands on the Tested.com Thing-O-Matic. And when I was checking out, Norm was nice enough to not only autograph it and take a selfie with me, which was totally cool, although it turned out blurry, which was my fault. But he also told me that I guess if I go way back in their videos, there's a video of them working on this, which would be kind of funny to watch. So after walking all the way from Tested to the subway station and having everybody staring at me going, what in the world are you hauling home, Calvin? I finally got it home and messed around with it a little bit. I had some problems initially with trying to get it to speak to Replicator G, and then I got that figured out. Then I thought it took 1.75 millimeter filament, and then it turns out it takes 3 millimeters, which is great because that's what this bad boy uses. And then it was like, oh, okay, I guess I can finally do a print. So I finally was able to get the twisted knot to work, which it didn't turn out super spectacular, but you know what? At the end of the day, for not really knowing how to use Replicator G and the fact that it is like Stone Age era slicing technology, it actually turned out pretty decent, all things considered. So my plans for this are as follows. I'm going to try and keep this as much as I can stock. I'm definitely going to introduce the machine to something called split loom tubing and zip ties so I don't have to worry about the wires getting snagged. I already had these wires get snagged on the carriage when it was trying home. Just little things like that to try and make it a little more neat and tidy. And then one of the other things I'm going to definitely do is upgrade the control electronics. And before you guys start freaking out and screaming, oh my gosh, you shouldn't do that, here's the reason why. Cool as it is that I can run this off Replicator G, it's ancient technology. And the other thing is the control electronics on here are rubbish. The reason why I say that is the big old motor that drives the extruder has a fan on top. So every single time the extruder runs, the fan runs to keep the extruder motor from overheating. All the motors, all the steppers on this thing run super hot, which is not a good thing. That means there's a lot of inefficiency. It means that there's a higher likelihood of burning the motors out. It's not good. So that's one of the reasons why I'm going to be replacing the control board in here. If you guys have suggestions for a good, low-cost, high-quality control board, please let me know. I definitely want to try and keep the same style of LCD mount, although I probably can't use the stock LCD. Oops. And another thing I'm probably going to replace is I'm going to look into replacing the power supply inside with a dedicated power supply just so it's more efficient. You got to remember, when this thing was built, it was probably way cheaper to buy surplus computer power supplies which give every voltage under the sun versus a dedicated power supply that just gives you 12 or 24 volts or whatever the system needs, which would be a lot more efficient, which would be good. Another thing I'm definitely going to replace is this archaic hot end. I mean, yeah, it works, but I don't like it very much. And the extruder is horrible. It probably was revolutionary back in the day, but compared to what we have now, it's bad. It literally uses this thumb wheel that pushes up against a piece of plastic that jams the filament into the feed wheel. No spring compensation, none of that stuff. A lot of friction and not a great design. I mean, back in the day, it was probably like state of the art, but compared to now where we have CNC machined extruders for flexible filaments and it's kind of outdated, sadly. So that's kind of my plans for it. Definitely going to be taking you guys through the process of working on it, and I'm going to try and keep as much of this stock as I can, but I do feel like if I really want to actually use this as a 3D printer, which I would love to do, it's probably advisable that I go through and replace stuff. My plans for this are to use an E3D V6 hot end, which is super nice, and I've used them at my work on some other printers, and it's amazing. When you set it up right, it's nuts. That will allow me to do high temperature materials all day, like nylons and maybe step into polycarbonates, things like that. Also, the machine is somewhat compact, so it's going to be a lot easier to enclose it, which would be nice, so I can put a filtration system on it and things like that, and also probably trap the heat in there while printing, so I don't have to worry about print splitting like what happened on this Marvin print. It split. It was ABS. More on those in another episode. So I hope that answers some of you guys' questions about the printer. If you have more, please feel free to comment down below. I don't mind. I'm always open for suggestions on this. I mean, honestly, when I was walking to the subway station, I thought, gee, it'd actually be pretty cool to strap a laser on here and turn it into a little laser cutter. But I decided that's not worth it. It might as well stay a 3D printer and be used as one. So I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time on a regularly scheduled episode of Make It with Calvin, which I promise is coming real soon.